I hope you're excited for today's video. If you are, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. The year is 1923 and France is in need of war reparations. So alongside Belgium, they, on the 11th of January, moved forces into the Ruhr Valley. In our timeline, the world's response to this was rather neutral, with only little reaction from the world, as this was technically legal under the Treaty of Versailles. However, in my opinion, this event could put a fly into France falling to a fascist regime. So, on the 11th of January, the French invade the Ruhr Valley. However, in this timeline, Germans will be allowed to speak for the first time in the League of Nations, which will show the world the horrors of the invasion, and which will lead the League of Nations to declare war. To declare the invasion of Germany against international law by presenting a different reading of the Treaty of Versailles. Thus, French President Raymond Poincaré will issue a statement against the League and refuse to leave the Rhine, stating their interpretation of the treaty. The League of Nations will tell France to leave the Ruhr by February 1st or face economic sanctions. The French government occupied the Ruhr until the 29th of February. However, on the 1st of February, sanctions were imposed by Britain and the USA. Another batch of sanctions followed on February 4th from Germany, Sweden, Norway and Mexico. Due to all this, France left the League of Nations on the 3rd of March. As a countermeasure, Britain and America cancelled their loans to France, which were being used to repay war debt and rebuild the country. From then onwards, France enters an economic crisis because the government would rather pay war debts than try and fix the crisis, expecting it to go away. On March 9th, strikes will erupt all over France, with fascist and socialist parties organising them. Support for both types of party rapidly increases. However, the government will implement anti-socialist policies after May 4th, when a strike kills several factory owners. Thus, fascism continues to rise, posing as French revolutionaries, with a big Napoleon celebration held on May 5th, where all fascist parties, including the Croix de Feu, form a coalition under the Janusas Patriotes. The government calls the army in to monitor the situation on May 7th. However, they have to decrease military pay to do this, making many of the soldiers turn to the fascist cause. This, along with Italian support, only increases fascist popularity. Germany remilitarizes the Rhineland following the French withdrawal to stabilize the Ruhr, and launches a secret rearmament project alongside Britain on March 4th. The British are guaranteed mandates over Syria and Lebanon on May 13th, due to France occupying the region via League of Nations mandate. When the French called the soldiers home, the governments in the regions collapsed, and the Arabic Republic of Syria and Lebanon was founded. The Brits invade in June as they refuse to turn themselves over to British rule. Germany sends volunteers to aid the British, helping them gain experience. For the most part, the world is stable in this situation until 1929. In October of that year, the Great Depression hits just like in our timeline. However, its effects on France are much worse than in our timeline, due to war debts to America being demanded to be paid faster, and the economy collapsing as the Germans aren't forced to pay their reparations so heavily. This begins to hit France in 1930, a full year before it hit them in our timeline. By 1931, fascist organisations have swelled in power and continue to arm themselves, with factories selling weapons to them in exchange for being protected from communist strikes. Meanwhile, in Germany, this has started a major political crisis. The communists, who have been gaining support due to French far-right wishing to destroy the nation, attempt a coup in December. However, with British intelligence, their plans are foiled, leading to the Germans and British signing an alliance under the SPD government, which also begrudgingly begins remilitarising, with British and Conservative parties, this is where most nationals have ended up, support. There is minor British discontent with this move, as some former military feel betrayed that the Treaty of Versailles isn't being upheld. However, this is mostly from opposition parties. Then, on February 6th, 1934, everything changes. Like in our timeline, there is a coup attempt. However, in our timeline, it failed, mostly attributed to the Croix-de-Feu refusing to support the other parties. However, in this timeline, due to Italian mediation, a coalition had been formed, including them, meaning that their forces are present, and thus fascists take over the country of France. Communists from France flee, running to Germany, Belgium, Spain and Britain. Over the course of the year, the fascists consolidate their power, preparing and remilitarising the state, and refusing to pay war debts to Britain and the USA, as well as trying to adopt reforms similar to Italy's to fix the economy, which worked fairly well, revitalising France. Meanwhile, the communists that have fled to Germany join up with the KPD to increase their support even more. Britain grants asylum to them so that they stop overrunning Germany. Meanwhile, ones in Spain have snuck across the border and keep safe from French fascist militaries hunting them down while they try to escape. France sets up concentration camps to hold communists, socialists, resistance fighters, monarchists and democrats. Their escape will provide France later justification to go to war. This is the end of part 1. Remember to like and subscribe. You're a real one if you watch to the end, so thank you, and prepare for the second episode to come out soon.